Good evening, Fernwood. It's your TV pal Neil, and it's time for some more late night variety madness with another episode of Fernwood Tonight. If you are just seeing my face for the first time, please thank you for tuning in. And hey, this is a reaction show where we watch the show together and then we talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, all our feelings will stay locked inside of us forever. And if that sounds like it's your bag, then please stick around. Also, if you're a viewer who feels like you have the means to help support the channel and help us grow, please check out our Patreon, where you can get early access to episodes, monthly updates, and the uncut episodes that are coming in a week and a half when we start watching our new shows. Y'all, today we are watching episode 58. It's a Wednesday episode from September 21st, 1977. I believe this episode and 8 total episodes left in Fernwood Tonight. Yesterday got, well, a little bit lonely and a little bit scandalous. Why do I say that? Let's find out. Barth Gimble told us that he usually starts the show with interesting things he's picked up in his time in Fernwood, but nothing is interesting, so he's moving on with the show. We then introduce the Mission Army Singers, who do their rendition of Da Do Run Run, which was recently made a hit by Sean Cassidy, and then one of the members shows that he has a Bible verse for every letter of the alphabet. We have an appearance from Mrs. Margaret Woodbury of the Fernwood Art Museum, who tells us about how that came together and how she's donating it all to the public. However, she has also discovered some improprieties, like this painting of Whistler's mother that appears to be painted by numbers, and also this ancient bust which seems to be filled with Tootsie Rolls. Barth then takes center stage with a number dedicated to his Floridian town, Am I in Heaven or Am I in Miami? Before we welcome guest Chuck Jackson, who is there to tell about his new singles resort that's in a bakery in Fernwood. And Bart only wishes that he had more time for more show, but we didn't. However, we do have time for today's show. Let's get started.
Tonight from Fernwood, Fernwood Tonight, 30 minutes of very remarkable entertainment coming to you almost live. With your host for tonight, Mr. Barth Gimble. Tonight, Barth's guest will be Mr. William W.D. Bud Price, whose friend made a big goat. The Reverend He, whose church is making noise with our boys. And Happy Kind and the Mirth Makers. And me, I'm Jerry Hubbard. And now here's your host and mine, Mr. Barth Gimble.
Wow. Thanks, Happy. Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome once again to Fernwood Tonight. I'm Barth Gimble, and we've got a show chock full of show for you tonight. So I don't want to take a lot of time here at the beginning, but we are incidentally getting a good response to our announcement of our bus tour with the whole Fernwood Tonight gang that I announced the other night. As a matter of fact, the people at Cross Country Bus Lines right here in Fernwood just confirmed our telephone reservation of the bus today, and so we do have the vehicle, and that's good news to start out. Now we need the destination. Where would you like to go with Happy, Jerry, and me? We'll take that clean-burning, diesel-fueled mother anywhere in there. So send in your reservations with that non-refundable $50 deposit, and be sure to include your vote on where the tour should go. It's up to you. Incidentally, to Dan Cleary at Stop and Go Liquors, that's what it's called, where they have cold beer and free matches. Thank you. Thank you, Dan, for that case, and you're absolutely right. When it is that old, it does taste good straight. But under federal laws, I am not allowed to accept it in lieu of the $50. I'm sorry. You know how strictly they regulate buses, Dan. That's the way it is. But thanks, just the same. Okay. Oh, Jerry Hubbard.
Good luck with that bus tour. I think there's a lot of talk about it in Fernwood.
Absolutely.
And speaking of buses, I don't know if we have time to tell
You take the bus to work every day.
Yes, I do. And as I said before, I sit in that seat just right up behind the driver there. And tonight, the driver told me a little story coming over, a little joke. See if you can figure this out. My parents had a child. It's not my brother, and it's not my sister. Who is it?
It's your joke, sir. I think I know the answer, but go ahead.
Bob Felker. He's the driver, the bus driver. He's the one who told me the story.
Very good. I'm sorry. I think I know it. It's I'm not my sister. I'm not my brother. But still, I'm the child of my father and my mother.
Yeah.
Who am I? No, it's me.
No, I think it's Bob Felker. That's the way he told it. Well, anyway, the point is these bus drivers have such a great sense of humor that I hope that although I'll be sitting in the rear of the bus, I can come down and kind of rap with whoever's driving the bus.
That's right. That's a good idea. Jerry.
And Bob asked me to put in a good word for him. He'd like to take that trip, too.
He would?
Yes.
As a driver?
Oh,
or
yes. No, as a driver, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, maybe he could keep us amused with those jokes all the way. I hope we don't go any farther than Akron with the tour. You know, ever since Fernwood Tonight started, Happy Kind, the Mirth Makers, our wonderful band, have been getting a lot of letters from teenagers who are interested in music. They want to know how a group like the Mirth Makers gets started, and some of them want to know why. We thought the best way to answer some of those questions would be to just go right to the horse's mouth itself, go right to our director over here. So let's go talk to the leader of the Mirth Makers, Mr. Happy Kind. Let's go. To make a guy feel at home. That's great. First of all, Happy, can the boys in the band read music? That's something we're asked all the time.
Well, some of them can't read anything. But we've got a world of experience in this group right here. I'll bet you that with just this group of guys here, we've got about 300 years of experience.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I average it all out, of course.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a wonderful experience they've had. You know, for example, these guys are all from big bands. You know,
really?
big band days. This is Eddie, the bass player. And you know, he was playing with the Musical Magpies, and we got them out of Cleveland. He came right with us.
They used to play the Sportsman show up there all the time when they and the House and Garden show.
Do you remember him? Yeah. Well, anyway, when we're going to get together an arrangement, I want to do this for these young people that are coming up. They respect an older adult, you know.
Sure they do.
Somebody 40, 42, they really think they're something.
So anyway, they must really respect you, Happy.
They didn't say that again.
Yeah, they must really respect you, Happy.
That's a musician's phrase that I used.
Oh, I see.
But anyway, so what we do is we end up in my house some evening, and then we go out in my garage. It's if it isn't warm, we just start the car and let it run in there.
Sure.
But anyway, we sit around, we have a few beers, you know, and listen to some Guy Lombardo records for inspiration or something to get the guys. And then I get feeling it, you know, and so all of a sudden you'll hear boom, 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 boom. It's my wife walking around.
Oh, I see. You're still married to her?
Yeah,
Amazing.
she's quite old now. By the way, and then Eddie, the bass player, will pick up that boom, boom.
That would be the boom,
like
boom,
this.
boom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Doesn't that get it?
Reminds me of some song. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah. And how many letters? Never mind. But anyway, so then we add the drums, and Colin Bursky, you know, our drummer, will start something like this. Kind of gets you right away, doesn't it? And then, you know, I got one of those songbooks, and of course, Big Tommy, he isn't here tonight, but...
Well, that's right.
Yeah, it's his parole officer, you know.
Yeah, that's great. Now, this isn't his parole. You were his roommate in prison, right? No, was it arson? Yeah. It was arson. That's great. He's really burning fingers, too. I guess that's where it all comes together.
Nice arson and larceny. Yeah, that's good. But anyway, Big Tom came to us directly from prison.
The Slammer, right?
That's right, from the Slammer. And, of course, he was in there on a bum rap. He rapped some bum in the head.
Again, you guys have to joke that, but that's great.
But anyway, so then I have this songbook of the 50s, and I pick out one of those real good 50s songs, one of the big hits, sung by like the Show No Nos or something.
Sha-na-na.
A instead of the O. Well, I always did have vowel trouble, you know.
Okay.
Then we end it after we learn the thing. Then we end with a chord like this, boys.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
I'd like to see more record pantomime from them, too, and a lot of the people in the audience have written in.
But they not play it all, but just look like they're playing.
Yes, that's some of the pop tunes of the day, which everyone loves.
Well, we'll talk to Hap about it. That's a possibility. My next guest is a familiar face and chin around town. He's, you know who I'm talking about if I say chin. Maybe you don't. He's always thinking of new ways to put Fernwood on the map and vows to keep coming back until one of them works. I think that's good. Please welcome Fernwood's unofficial, and I can't stress that enough, he is totally unofficial.
There's some controversy about that.
He claims he's been appointed by the mayor.
A lot of people object to him using that.
Well, the mayor's one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, the mayor hates that. Please welcome Fernwood's very unofficial ambassador at large, Mr. William W.D. Bud Price.
You can call me anything you want so long as you don't call me late for supper, right?
Oh, that's right. You prefer being, it's William W.D. Bud Price for William Don Bud Price, but you prefer Tom, right?
Tom, some of them calls me Tom, some of them calls me Maury.
Okay, we haven't called you Maury yet, so let's do that. Maury, what do you have for us tonight?
Well, you know, Cletus Emmett Whirlwelker's back from his trip to way out deep, far out outer space. They took him all to parts, you know, because they wanted to take a peep at his brains. Because he is so smart for a human being, they have never seen nothing like it. So what they've done was they took him all to parts. You know, they knows where all your nuts and bolts and screws to your human body is. And they took him all to parts, you know, and they give him only a local anesthetic. Here he is. He's laying on this one table, see, all in different parts. And he sees them giving his brain to once over on the other table.
Because it was only a local and he could still...
Yeah, that's right. So he's back now. Of course, I tell you, fabulous thing, unbelievable. What they done is they clowned him a leg. Now I don't know whether all of you know that Cletus Emmett Whirlwelker is a one-legged man. Has been since he was a small child.
Well, he took that off himself, didn't he? Because he wanted to be a pirate so badly, he just...
Well, I won't tell you something. That's right. Always wanted to be a pirate when he was a little boy. Parental permissiveness, that's a word, ain't it? Permissiveness?
Sure.
Can go so far. But when a child wants to remove his leg because he wants to be a pirate, do not let him do it.
Like Bud, he just said no to body removal. I think we'd have a happier bunch of kids.
Absolutely. Hate you for it then, but as they grow older, they'll look back and say, thanks.
Yeah.
Daddy had something in the old noodle. That's what they'll say.
They may not know that until they're on their own 2 feet and know what they're doing. And, of course, that's possible if they've taken one off when they're
Too
young.
late.
Absolutely.
Too late now. Of course, you know, his eye, when that was put out, that was an accident. But it was one of them real nice accidents because he always wanted to wear a patch. You know.
Happy accident, right.
So,
Stanley, and speaking of Cletus's work, I hate to say this, but is that chin... it's a chin
yeah, it's going back.
retainer for his underbite, but
Cletus Emmett is also a chin.
I'm not sure it's going back, Tom.
It does. I didn't want to say it, but it looks almost, God forbid, it's protruding a little more. I think it's the angle from the...
There must be some people that thinks it's funny when they does this, but it is not me. I do not find this real amusing because we have got all of my progress of the chin marked up on the garage door in chalk.
Oh, you just...
And it's all marked up there, plain to see, and that chin is going back. 8 years from now, I'm going to have the profile of a movie star.
Well, you've had it on now for how long?
I've had it on now for about, it's been about 2 months. I got 8 years more to go.
8 years more to go. Actually, 7 years and 10 months, if you want to look at it kind of from the happy viewpoint.
Yeah, that's just about...
You mentioned Cletus. What is Cletus working on now, W.D., William Bud?
Well, I've got something to talk about before I get to that, because, you know, I'm steaming. I am mad. My dandruff is really up on this. I have something to show you that I see. Well, I didn't see it in the paper, but fortunately, I have friends who is all over the world, you know. Now, Ruby Louise Hannigan of the world-famous Hannigan Mule Troupe, she was in Los Angeles, California, and she's seen this in the Los Angeles Times. Can you see this thing? It says, it's a hat, or maybe a rabbit, or possibly a cabot. Now, this is an article that is about these people that have got this animal, you see, that is half of a cat and half of a rabbit, see?
Yeah.
And they says that they found this animal in New Mexico. This is not their cabot, this is my cabunny. At least some stalage is involved here, maybe some bunny napping. I don't know. But this animal was breeded up for me by Cletus Emmett Whalewhacker and was given to me. This cabunny was given to me. I'll tell you, steam starts coming out of here in a minute. I sent these...
Think more clearly if you're calm, believe me.
Absolutely. Just sit back, relax.
Boy, I feel like somebody pumped me up with a bicycle pump. I won't tell you.
You're going to break your straps if you get it. Oh, no. Shoot one of those rubber bands. We could hurt someone in the audience, so just kind of calm down.
What would you make jokes about if it wasn't for me, huh? Anyway, let's get serious about this because this is a very serious subject. I sent these people a letter, a complete letter out to Los Angeles, California about this stolen cabunny. I sent this letter out to them, telling them that this is my stolen cabunny, and you know that I tell the gospel truth.
That's right.
Absolute gospel truth. Never stretch them. If you want fairy tales, go to Hams, Christian, and Amberson. Because you won't hear it from me. Now, as of this reportage, I have not heard from these people, not one word.
In case the people out there do find this on the street or...
I know where it is. They got it.
What, does it answer to any name of any sort?
Spotty.
Spotty. You have a dog named Spotty.
Well, yeah, I do.
Your dog's name is Spotty.
I do have a dog named Spotty. I like Spotty. That's why I named my cabunny Spotty.
Your wife is called Nancy to Spotty.
No, she don't.
Well, he told me that. Now, don't look at me like that.
You told me that earlier that she answers to
He'll
Spotty.
tell you anything.
Well,
you know
told
him.
me that.
Well, it's Spotty on her birth certificate anyway. If she changes it later on, that's one
her
thing.
last name.
Here's the animal. Here's
Spokee.
the animal.
It's
Here's
her
the
last
host. Here's the
name.
announcer. And here's who knows. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Thank you, Happy. We're back with William W.D. Budd Prize, or Tom or Maury, and Jerry Hubbard, Happy Time the Orchestra. You know, recently over 100 of our congressmen were accused of accepting bribes from the Korean government in return, of course, for favors. They're calling this scandal, incidentally, Koreagate. Thought some people might know that. The Koreans, of course, are calling it a big misunderstanding. Here, as a part of a national public relations tour in defense of his government, is the Reverend Chung. Hope this couch isn't too high for you. Reverend He, let's not beat around the bush. Have United States congressmen been receiving Korean money?
Yes, they have, Mr. Gimba. But these congressmen, they have not received money from our government. They have received money from our church.
Church. Okay, so you're saying that this is a religious situation that we have here and certainly not a bribe situation.
Oh, there is no bribery involved in any way.
Good.
These congressmen are merely our disciples. They are devoted followers of our church, the Church of the Grand Acceptance.
Exactly what is the Church of the Grand Acceptance? I've not heard of it.
This is the church that was founded on the precept that one can achieve inner serenity
Right.
by accepting gifts and blessings of the church.
This is a bit unusual. Usually you have a religion that wants the people to give them money, you know, as opposed to this is, you're giving the people money. Is that what you're saying? You're going to give it to them?
That's why those churches are losing their frock.
Well, I don't mean to give you any flack about your frock, as you put it, but what exactly is the nature of these blessings and gifts to the congressman? What are
These come in many forms, Mr. Gimba.
you can call me Barth.
But most common, of course, is hard cash. And sometimes it comes in the form of a condominium or an Eldorado.
After the congressman received these blessings from your church, don't they have to do anything in return for the Korean government?
Oh, no. We know nothing of your politics. Government is your congressman's business.
Sure.
If, of course, in their wisdom, someone sees fit to see that Senate bill is passed to provide military equipment, the church will not stop them.
Yeah, I see. Where does your church get the money for all these blessings they're bestowing upon our elected officials, our congressmen?
Back home in Korea, we pass a correction spread among our poor unselfish flock.
Okay, your frock. What would you say is your average contribution there?
Oh, $1 here, $1 there, and 200 million big ones from the Korean government.
Sounds a bit like that laundered money to me. You know what I mean, Reverend?
They probably picked that up from the Chinese.
In by 10, solvent by 4. Right.
Starts those bills, it's hard to fold them and put them in your pocket.
Absolutely. If you don't have your picky. Reverend He, you certainly do have I think, a fascinating religion here, and in fact, I think I'd like to look into it further. I'm sure our government would like to look into it further as well. Having you here might turn out to be a blessing in disguise, if you catch my drift.
I got ya.
Right on, Rev. We'll be right back after this word. Don't go away. We're back. I never know until the van stops, and then I feel so bad about it. We only have time really to thank my wonderful guests tonight. First of all, the wonderful Reverend He, who had to run down to the State House and talk to some people about some important things. And, but what's this?
I don't know. That might be some Cabani fur.
That was going to be my
I don't
Do you
know.
save
It's
that?
a little bit too long.
Do you save that stuff?
Usually.
Okay, you have probably a big ball of it at home. This is, in case you just joined us, we're ending. This is WD Bud Prize, or Tom or Maury. He was our guest earlier as well. I want to thank you for the
Just tuned in, boy. Did you miss it?
Oh, we got a good one. Jerry Hubbard is always here. Oh, boy. Happy Kind of the Orchestra. It's been a wonderful show. Bud, where are you going from here?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I'm going to go home and take off my shoes and just put
Those
my
are
feet up
pretty
a little
good-looking
bit.
shoes you got there.
That's an anti-bunion shoe. And I want to tell you something. There is more people in insane asylums today because of unbearable pain in their feet than there is from your mental problem. This is an anti-bunion shoe. It's a special-made shoe that has a pad in there that pushes against where your bunion is.
Well, it's great news. Maybe we can try to market them sometime.
You know, I'll tell you something about this shirt. You know whose shirt this was original? Arthur Guthrie. It's an actual fact. This shirt was given by Arthur Guthrie to Tony Marvin. To Tony Marvin. You remember Arthur Guthrie, the fellow who played the ukulele? Now, he gave this to Tony Marvin that day that he fired that Italian boy.
We're almost out of time. Well, we are out of time. Good night.
Also appearing on tonight's show are Kenny Mars as Mr. William W.D. Bud Prize and Raymond Sison as Reverend Chung Hee.
to a person.
Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and say that that was gross. And not the entire show, but I thought I'd get that out of my system before we went back to the beginning of the show, where Barth brings up the bus trip that he talked about last week. You know, send in your $50 and you can go anywhere with the Fernwood Tonight crew. Apparently now there's a bus line, so maybe we'll see. And I remember now that Barth said that his birthday was coming up very soon. I'm not sure if that's going to be tomorrow or next week. It was a little bit confusing based on the fact that he used two different numbers for exactly how far away his birthday was. I don't know if that was intentional or because they didn't know what a fortnight was. But yeah, that's where we were. But there's that bus trip, $50, and then Jerry comes on with another bit about the bus, and it's as silly as ever. You know, he tells a riddle that he himself does not appear to get, at least out of the context of the bus. Then we have an extended bit with the Mirth Makers and Happy Kind. I don't see that new bassist that was there earlier this week. We get to meet some other folks, and apparently the drummer is not the same drummer I'm used to seeing all the time either. So there seems to have been some rotation in that. I mean, obviously you're a working musician. You're going to take the gig that works for you, I guess. I can't explain why people weren't there in this case, but it's supposed to be an exploration of how you get into music. And it starts with maybe explaining how you pick up a bass line and add some instruments to it. And they demonstrate that they for sure can end on, you know, a cue. Then we bring out William W.D. Rudd Prize, who is there to talk about Cletus Emmett Wheelwelker, who had advised him to get his chinodonty. We find out more about this invisible character, that he tried to have his leg removed because he wanted to be a pirate, and he was lucky enough to get his eye gouged out, so he had to wear an eye patch. Then a little bit about a Cabot, I guess that's the name of the creature, though Tom or Maury insists that it's a Cabunny and that it's his Cabunny that he got from Cletus. And then our next guest is the elephant in the room, at least the thing that really bugged me most about this episode. I believe that this character being a reverend from Korea means that they were specifically referring to the Reverend Sun Young Moon, who was famous for having a cult of Moonies. At least that's how I understand it. I haven't really listened or looked into that story. And seeing as the Reverend went on to be tried for tax fraud or something of that like, at least that's what Google tells me, well, it makes sense that this is a bit about a church leader who is doing inappropriate things with money. That's not really the part that bothers me so much, because, you know, that's topical. But that this character doesn't appear to be played by an actor of Korean descent. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I didn't hear the last name. I couldn't make out the last name of the actor who played him. But it also plays into, like, as soon as I hear that tune that brings us in, I mean, is that a Japanese tune? Like it just plays into all the Orientalism that was rife in that period. And being as 1976 and 77 was probably the first time I ever got called Ching Chong Ching, I'm just not okay with it. I'm just really bothered by it. And I know it's intended as comedy, but it just doesn't play like that. It plays like that if you're completely ignorant. So I'm not going to forgive that piece. It's just gross. I get the topical nature of it, but, you know, playing with flock versus frock, that's a pretty specifically Japanese stereotype about not being able to say L's and R's properly. Again, it's completely Orientalism. Like, just everything, every person east of a certain line on the planet Earth, right on that hemisphere, appears to be vaguely Asian, or, you know, live up to any of the stereotypes applied to Asian people. I don't really care about the Reverend Moon in this case. I guess I could find out a little bit about the Reverend Moon, but the rest of it is really just dragging it down. So you get a thumbs down from me on that bit. And that's very rare for me, because, you know, I'm forgiving of most of the things on this show. this one strikes a little bit close to home, I guess. And then Tom or Maury or William W.D. Bud Prize reminds us of the Hulk Bunny bit, which did hit pretty well in the first half of the show. And that's where we end. So now it's time for us to talk about, well, in a week and a half, I'm going to start watching MASH, one episode every week, and a second show which we've been leaving seeds for. I did mention that this was a superhero science fiction themed anime from the 1970s. It was adapted to an American audience. That's when it got its popularity in America. And I'm not going to watch that version because I prefer to watch original source material. That's just stuff that's fun for me. However, with many shows that are adapted to an American audience from Japan, they have to find ways to justify why their show is called what it is. Like the show The Mighty Atom in the 1950s, when that was adapted for an American audience, it was called Astro Boy. Or Speed Racer later on in the 1960s, when that was adapted from a show called Mach GGG. In the case of Mach GGG, there's literally a G on what we call Speed Racer's outfit, which I don't believe is hiragana or kanji, stands for Go, which is the name of the character in Japanese, and that's never really explained. I think in certain translations you might see him called Greg. In any case, Japanese shows translated for an American audience often have to jump through many, many hoops to figure out exactly what to do with some of these things that don't culturally translate. So, all I can say, y'all, is gee, I wonder what that's going to mean for us. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for leaving your thoughts, feelings, and impressions in the comments. Thank you to my top tier Patreon supporters because, gee, I really appreciate you. We will see you all tomorrow night in Fernwood.